Good evening, y'all. Welcome to Smart Trucking Live. We don't have any visual tonight. We have latency issues with our internet provider. Hopefully that'll be back on track by next week. But in the meantime, for this evening, just relax, sit back, and enjoy the listening experience.
Just a couple of words, folks. With all the upset in the world right now, I hope this live stream finds you and your families well. I think it's important to be calm and not to worry through all of this that's going on. It's a time that we need to think about helping each other. So let's jump in here tonight with both feet and let's have some fun and let's get this party started.
So, good evening, everyone. Hamish, good evening. Philip Owens, Trucker Hershey, Matthew Thomas, Michael Mueller, good evening. How are you guys all doing tonight? Michael Mueller, do I know anybody that has had COVID-19? Yes, yeah, a friend of mine just went through it. He was off the road for 10 days. He said it's just like having the flu. No big deal. He's back up and running today, so no problems with it. It's not that big a deal. Jeff Steves, how are you doing? Ryan, always enjoy watching your videos. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. Good evening from Iowa, Riley. Howdy from Walton, Kentucky, Ursel Blevins, howdy. There used to be a Flying J I used to stop at there. I assume it's still there. That was one of the few Flying J's I liked.
David, my cat is just fine. He wanted to be here tonight, but since we had no visuals, he wasn't interested.
So this is a Q&A tonight. We've got the boards open. We'll just take your questions as we can and just have an evening of it.
Okay. Did you ask anybody anything?
One of the things we were wondering was, what kind of freight are you guys interested in pulling? Now, I always pulled reefers, but lots of guys, like my buddy Richard, for instance, always wanted to pull covered wagons. Never tried it, never got around to it, but it was always an interest of his. There are different things that people would like to try doing. What kind of stuff do you haul, and what kind of stuff are you interested in trying? Something that you haven't tried. I know I've never done oversized, for instance, but I never had the nerve, frankly. But it pays really good money, but I always avoided that. But lots of guys have the nerve to try that. I always wanted to try like a grain trailer, like a belly hopper system, and I always thought hauling grain around and seed and that type of thing would be a good job. You wouldn't have to go into the cities downtown. Most of that stuff is rural work. You could just belly dump through a grate in the floor. I always wanted to try that, but never did get a chance. Hey, Jeff from Moncton, how are you doing? Hey, big strappers, and hello to Miss Catherine. Thank you from Benjamin.
Okay, folks, we're waiting for some questions here. If you've got anything that you want to ask Dave, make sure that you post it. Matthew Thomas?
I have a question, Tyler. I have a question. I heard the Lettuce King from the past videos, but I was wondering what equipment he's running. Well, he hasn't finished it yet, but he's just putting the final touches on what appears like it's going to be a needle nose, an old needle nose Pete with new parts underneath the hood and stuff. But that's what he's working on right now. It should be ready to go once the snow gets off the road, but that's what he's working on. And we should be going down shortly here to have a look at it, do some footage of it.
Harry Gill.
How does the future of trucking look in the near future following this recession? You know, my gut instinct is that it's going to be kind of a slow, tough year. We're off to a bad start. We were in a bit of a slump. Now with this COVID deal, that's hurt us again. We've got trade problems with China. I think it's going to be a slow year. The rates are falling. The markets are crashing. I think it's going to be a tough year to survive. That's just my take on it, anyway.
In trucking.
Yes, in trucking. We do have 10 new emojis. I believe they're for members only, but check those out. They're pretty cool. Do you know where I could find a Peterbilt 359 project? Brenton Smith. Jeez. I don't off the top of my head, but you should be able to find one lying around fairly easily. Like check Pennsylvania and the Illinois area, Iowa, stuff like that's usually lying around out there. California had a bunch of them a while back. I don't know if they still do or not, but when California changed their emissions requirements, a bunch of guys were getting rid of their 359s. A few guys up here bought them right out of California and trucked them up. So
hey, Trucker Hershey, how's that teal truck going?
Oh, is that the teal truck? Must be the Lettuce King truck?
No.
No? Which truck?
GP Transco?
Oh, they're doing fine. They're doing well.
No, we're asking Trucker Hershey how he's doing at his new job.
Okay. Alrighty. I hope you're enjoying it, Trucker Hershey.
We're trying to find out. He did Duluth to Houston, and he's now going to Ohio.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Repeat it.
He did Duluth, and he's now going to Ohio.
Duluth to Houston.
Duluth to Houston, then to Ohio. Shannon, I always preferred flatbed, but I'm not fond of tarping loads. No, I don't think anybody's fond of that. I guess that's what these roll tops are for, to help eliminate that problem. But those things are like big, expensive money, and they seize up on the track if you don't take care of them.
Carney, what do you think about these drivers taking 30-minute breaks in fueling and blocking others?
Oh, man, don't even get me going on that. But, yeah, all sorts of guys just seem to want to land in fuel islands, and they're too lazy to move. That drives me nuts. Fuel and get out. Don't block the next guy. You really bugger up the flow of things when you park in the fuel islands. There's no need to be there that long. Even, as soon as you're done fueling, pull ahead and pull right out of the way into the parking lot if you can, because sometimes the line will back up behind you anyway. But yeah, and then go in and pay. They don't think you're taking off on them or anything. Go in right away and pay, and don't mess up the rest of the gang behind you. And you get into these little truck stops like little pilots and stuff. It only takes about 3 trucks per lane to plug the whole thing up. Then people can't get in or out. So yeah, get out of there. Fuel and get the heck out of there. Go to the other side of the parking lot. Then wander back in and pay. They won't have lost track of you. Hamish, thank you, sir. Appreciate the donation. What's the best truck to go for an up-and-coming driver like me? I don't have a CDL yet, but I would love to work for a company in the USA. Well, for Britain, Hamish, I couldn't tell you. I believe that's where you are right now. But in the States, they're all really pretty good trucks mechanically right now. We still have some emissions issues over here. I wouldn't be afraid really to try any of them. You've probably heard me rant about Volvos. I think they probably make an all-night truck. It's just not my taste. I still like the Pete's and the Kenworths myself. I just think PACCAR makes a better product. But if you have your choice, go for a Kenworth or a Pete. That's what I say anyway. Woody, recession is a bit of a strong word at this point. Yeah, it is. I shouldn't maybe use that word recession, but Trucker Hershey says more like a depression. Depends on where you are. I know a few friends of mine are having trouble moving around. They say the freight's pretty slow right now. So, yep. So, but it'll pick up. Trucking always goes in ebbs and swings and flows. So it'll resurge, and we're coming back into spring, so produce will start rolling.
DCAS, thank you very much for the $3.99 donation. Appreciate it. Dave Kaler has a question for you. What's the best tire tread for long distance drives?
I prefer, what's the term? Like a solid shoulder, not a lug shoulder. I like a lug tire for all different weather conditions, but I prefer a solid shoulder rather than a lug shoulder on the tire. Like, meaning the very outside treads of the tire are all solid. There's no exposed gaps on the outsides of the trailer tire. So like a solid shoulder, a fixed shoulder on the drives. And you can find those. Michelin makes a good one. Bridgestone makes a good one.
There, we've got a comeback from Trucker Hershey. His job is going great at GP Transco. He's getting used to his Freightliner, and he thinks there's a few differences apart from a Pete.
Yes, there probably are a few differences. How do you find the ride, though? I'd be curious as to what you think of the ride. Give me a clue on how you find that. Shannon, is there anything that you or Catherine need? No, Shannon, we're good. Appreciate it, but no, we're good. Thanks. I finished trucking school next month, still undecided on which carrier to start with. In your opinion, which mega carrier would be the best to get some experience before you move to something else? Ross, I don't know where you are, but out of the big mega carriers, the one I like is Maverick. Now, it's a flatbed deal, but they're a really well-run, well-managed company. So if you're going with a mega carrier, I'd check out Maverick. I think that's where I'd be headed anyway. Michael Mueller, all arrest areas and cash tolls in PA are closed. Only fuel and easy pass is open. Is that right? I didn't know that. Michael, I drive a Freightliner Cascadia as a Swift driver, pulling Walmart loads, and my rims are polished and I have hubcaps and lug nuts. Nice truck. Nice truck. Nice when you get a nice company truck like that. Michael, yeah, I'm going to keep my Pete as long as I can. I assume you're talking about the new Pete that you got, eh, Michael? I know you were destined for one. I assume you have it by now.
Michael Thompson, how do you figure we've been deregulated? I missed that conversation. Maybe we get some clarification there. A few people are having trouble with their internet this evening.
Denise Wade, hello Denise, how are you doing tonight? Have you ever met someone under the handle Tennessee Rebel? Man, that Diesel the Wolfie, that rings a bell with me somewhere. I believe so. I believe so. Friend of yours, I assume? Someone you knew?
I had someone actually ask me on Facebook, and it's not the first time I've been asked today, what brand of CB radio you would recommend.
Well, I am completely out of touch with that anymore, but
Yikes.
probably a Galaxy. Last time I checked, the Galaxies were still making a really good radio. So, yeah, probably yeah. Or a Connex. Connex makes a good radio. One of those two. But you know, even the Cobras. If you're just into a good radio but don't want to spend a whole lot of money, the Cobra 29 has been a good radio for years. Been around for years. All depends on what you want to spend. But if you want to have a big radio, you'd probably want to go to a Galaxy or a Connex these days. Good question.
Diesel Wolfie says Volvos are about the ugliest trucks on the road. Repeat that.
Volvos are about the ugliest trucks on the road. Well, let let me tell you what we used to hear, that Volvos were so ugly that drivers, when they landed in the truck stop, they'd get out of the passenger door so nobody would see them getting out of the truck. Or they'd wait till dark to go back out to the truck so nobody would see them.
Now there's a good point. Someone mentioned January, February, March are always slow. And yes, they can be slow freight months at any given time. Like, we remember that those were probably that first quarter of the year is typically the slowest freight movement time of the entire year.
Yeah, so we're not going through anything unusual right now. That's right.
Not in the freight business.
Yeah, it always swings back up. People always need their stuff, especially if you're hauling food like produce or anything like that. People always have to eat, so the freight'll pick up.
Someone asked in the stream, I missed the exact question, but they mentioned, I believe they were asking your opinion on a Western Star.
I see it here, and I was just going to get to that. Western Star makes a good truck. I didn't own the truck. I drove a Western Star a brand new one in '79. I drove it for an outfit, and it was, to this day, one of the nicest trucks for interior that I've ever had the privilege to drive. The upholstery in that thing was about 3 inches thick. It was button tucked, and man, it was nice inside. It was a narrow little cab back then. You could reach over and roll down the passenger window. That's how narrow the cab was. But I really liked them. I know they're a little bit heavier. There's a lot of steel involved in a Western Star, whereas a lot of the other manufacturers use plastic or aluminum or something. So they're a heavy truck, but they're a good, solid, well-built truck. I like the Western Star.
Just a nice little shout out to Joy from Fleet Nav is with us tonight. Hey, Joy.
Oh, welcome, Joy. Thanks for joining us. I don't know, back to the Western Stars for a minute, I don't know if they still have those bunks that bulb out, but when the Lettuce King and I first saw those, and we first saw those at a truck show at Walcott, the annual Walcott Jamboree, and they had a brand new Western Star, and they had this bulbed out bunk, and kind of an unusual shape, and the Lettuce King says, it looks like somebody threw a hand grenade in there and then closed the door, and it went boom inside the bunk to shape it. That's exactly what it looked like. We had a good laugh out of that, but pretty nice inside.
Michael Mueller just made a comment that Maverick has driver-facing cams now.
Yeah, someone else was telling me that too, so I don't know what to make about that. Hopefully it's an optional thing if you have the camera facing the driver. You know, like GP Transco does that. I think that's a really good idea. They give you a little more money if you put up with it. I think that's a good idea. Hopefully Maverick does that. Any companies you hire out of California you would recommend? I would like to stay in the Western region. Let me think for a second here. Western Distributing, I believe, hires out of California. And they're, you won't get rich there, but they're a good reliable company. Pride out of Salt Lake City, I believe they hire out of California, and they're a really good outfit. I like them all day long. Try one of those two. Check out Pride.
Vic S says, hello, I want to get my AZ. I live in Ontario. What are your suggestions? Some drivers are not happy, and they say they are staying away from being a driver. Well, we have a lot to say about that in Ontario.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start with that. Ontario has some serious issues.
Yes.
Some serious issues. I don't even know what to tell you. You get a better idea talking to an established carrier like Bison or Challenger, for instance, if you want to hire out of Ontario, but it's not the greatest province to be a driver in anymore. But talk to one of those two carriers. They're the first two that come to mind. And if anybody can keep you happy when you're starting out, it'd be one of those two. They're big, reliable, honest carriers anyway.
Peters has a question about his first trip over the road. What should he be taking with him? We have an article actually on our website. I just can't think of the URL for it, but maybe you could just give him a really super quick little rundown of this super important stuff.
Sure. I would take lots of your own cash. I would take a little toolkit, something basic like an adjustable wrench, pair of vice grips, some Ziploc ties, just basic stuff, just to try to patch your way through if you should need anything. A couple of hose clamps, something like that. Take more clothes than you think you're going to need. Take good quality bedding, because lots of these companies don't want you running the truck at night to stay warm. So take a decent heavy sleeping bag. Depending on where you're running too. Like if you're going to be running into warm climates, you'll need sets of clothes for warm and cool. So don't cheap out on the clothes. Couple of different pairs of footwear, couple of different pairs of gloves, and that should pretty much cover you for the interim until you get going and figure out what you're missing and stuff like that. Take basic stuff like aspirin with you and that type of stuff. Band-aids, just in case.
Sketch.
Yeah, plenty of that. Ross House. I live on the outskirts of Nashville. You guys had a bit of a tornado there a week or two ago. I watched some of the footage on that. That was kind of an ugly deal. I hope that's all fixed up now. That wasn't good. Kind of a surprise storm too, I gather. It's been a weird weather year. Like the West has been hit really bad a few times. Stay away from Western Express, says Woody Bryan. I agree. They're one of the worst. Western Express. They've been crap for a long time. And he says he likes his Stryker 955, a good radio. You don't see those just anywhere. Usually you see them down in the Southwest, but yeah, they're a nice radio. You'll pay for it, but it's a good radio.
Do they sell big radios?
Oh yeah.
Big
Yes, that's the only kind of radios they sell. Strikers are big radios.
Tell them about the new Chrome shop you're going to check out.
Oh yes. Apparently there's a new Chrome shop. The Lettuce King let us know about it, but he's found a new Chrome shop down in Belleville, Ontario, and I can't even remember what it's called, but there'll only be the one down there. And we're going to go down there in a few weeks and check that out. The website looks impressive. It looks like they got lots of stuff. It looks like they can order a whole lot more stuff if they don't have it in stock. So something kind of unusual for up here. Chrome shops are few and far between. And nice to see a good one up here.
Because he's getting ready to pimp the ride here soon.
Well, we'll see about pimping the ride. Pimping the ride can get awfully expensive, so we'll see. For a truck that doesn't work for a living anymore.
I mean the two-wheeler ride.
Oh, that, yeah. Yes.
They haven't seen our new rides. We both have a new ride.
Yes,
we'll leave that for a surprise.
Okay, yeah. Well, at a later date, you'll have to check it out. But what's the name of that movie? Hogs? What was the name of it with John Travolta? Think along those lines.
Wild Hogs?
Wild Hogs, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. Kathy and I are going to do the Wild Hog thing on a smaller scale here as soon as the weather gets nice. Stay tuned for that. I'm going to have to get a real good helmet. My balance isn't what it used to be. Areas, let's hope this stuff finishes up in time for Clifford this year. Yes, I'm sure it'll be all cleared up by then.
A comment. I just left Prime because I only made $9.50 an hour last year. Is there a company that does an honest lease purchase? I don't want to go to GP Transco because they require you to be company for 90 days. Ooh, are you convinced that you want to be a lease purchase?
Yeah, that's my reaction. I don't agree with lease purchase deals. I think they're all crooked. I'd avoid that like the plague. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Prime would be the last place. I can't think of a carrier I wouldn't go to more than Prime. So you've started off on a bad leg there. My sympathies go out to you there. I don't know of a carrier that I would recommend for a lease program. If I was going to recommend one, I would have recommended GP Transco, because at least I trust those people, to be honest with you. But other than that, I don't know what to suggest. I'm sorry.
Super Dubo. I have never even driven a truck, but I still love your show.
Well, thank you, Philip Owens. Any thoughts on the HOS suspension here? Yeah, it's kind of a gray area, isn't it? They're saying, for necessary freight, but who's going to decide? Is that up to the judgment of each and every DOT officer that pulls the truck in? Is that going to be his call as to whether or not this shipment is subject to that? Or they haven't been very clear about how that's going to work. So I'll be curious to see. In a few weeks we'll start hearing from guys about, got pulled over and got shut down because they were hauling stuff they thought was necessary, and turns out it wasn't. So we'll see how that works out. I'm predicting it might be a bit of a mess.
Peterbilt 379 says, some people say the driverless trucks are about to put us all out of a job.
I wouldn't be sweating it yet. Even the experts now are starting to admit that's years and years off. And even in 50 years or so, when you see them regularly on the roads, they're still going to have a driver on board, which I don't understand what they've accomplished at that point then. That kind of defeats the purpose. If they're always going to have a guy on board to pilot the thing when you get into town, or when the weather turns bad or something like that. But don't worry, it won't be in our lifetime anyway. I wouldn't sweat that at all. Lots of the computer geeks think they're going to replace us tomorrow. Not a hope. Nothing to worry about.
Although there was a lot of talk today, I had some emails too, actually. There must have been something in the news regarding autonomous trucks just yesterday or today, something new and innovative, that I got a lot of emails that said that they were worried about autonomous trucks again. So I think that's where that came from.
The only thing I'm aware of is this outfit in Missouri that's gonna take a stab at platooning with an autonomous truck behind the lead truck again. And I talked about that the other day on one of the videos, but I can't see how that's going to work very well. They want to put the driver of the second truck off duty, but legally he can't be off duty if he's with the equipment. He could maybe go sleeper berth, but then he's got to stay there for 8 hours at least, or maybe 10. So, they've bent the law just to get this thing on the road. We'll see how that works.
Tyler asks, any advice for a starting owner-operator? I just got my very first truck, a 2001 KW W900L with a 3408 Cat, and I lost the rest of the chat.
Oh, nice truck.
I just did my first run to Alberta hauling a B train.
Oh, nice. Keep track of all your numbers. Watch the money. Watch the numbers, and pulling B trains. It's going to use what it's going to use when it comes to fuel. There's not a whole lot you can do with that, but just be gentle with the thing, because a 3408 Cat is a great engine, but it likes fuel. You're going to have to drive it like you've got eggshells under the fuel pedal, but that'll be all right once you get out in the prairies. Hopefully you're not, the trains aren't high. You won't grab a lot of wind, but that's nice. I appreciate what you're doing. I did that for a while myself. I kind of miss that. I hope you enjoy it. I think you will.
Peterbilt 379, are there any good starter trucking companies that hire out of the Georgia area?
I think GP Transco hires out of the entire 48, do they not?
I believe so.
Yeah, I'd check out GP Transco up in Illinois. I believe they hire out of the whole 48.
Yeah, that's right. You don't have to live in Illinois.
Yeah, Pride out of Salt Lake hires out of the whole 48. They're really good. Check them out.
So I fueled today at Flying J, and MGR was trying keys in the door lock. Said corporate called asking if they had a key to the doors.
Mass confusion continues to reign for
Yes,
keys.
I guess so.
Unbelievable.
Josie asks, have you ever been a bull hauler?
Well, kind of, but not really. The first few trips I ever took was with a friend of my father's, and he was a bull hauler. And I decided after spending a few trips with him that I didn't want to be a bull hauler because freight that could kick you in the head as it was going up the ramp didn't appeal to me. And they rock and rolled all night. The trailer moves all night, so then the truck moves all night. And I was a light sleeper, so I wasn't much of a bull hauler. Those guys have a good time. They're fairly unregulated, except for having to stop to let the cattle out. But no, not professionally. No, I haven't ever been.
He eats steak, though.
And I support the industry. I like steak.
And
I love
hamburgers.
steak. I love steak.
Fred wants to know what happened to our video. Did our video crew not show up for work?
Hey man, we're here at our end. It's the provider at their end that's messing up. So we're doing our part.
It's the middleman.
It's the middleman. Always the middleman. No, we're doing our part. Probably just as well. I'm in my pajamas anyway.
Yeah.
Not really. Hearing some crazy talk on the radio about $5 a mile. No, I haven't heard anything like that. I hope it's true. But as the trucks drop out and the freight increases, the rates go up. You never know what we'll see this year.
Hamish says the chicken hauler trucks are out of this world. I was amazed to hear the Lettuce King having a marine engine.
Oh, you know what? I've known a couple guys that had marine engines in their trucks, and that was in the days before they worried about emissions, and they would pull like Jack the Bear, but they would smoke something fierce. I knew another guy that he was up in Alaska, and he blew his cat. He had a 3406, and he blew the cat, and went to the cat dealer, and that was all they had up there to replace that motor with, and it was under warranty. Was a marine cat, and this guy ended up with a marine cat out of Alaska, kind of out of default, but he loved it. Anyone that ever had one thought they were great engines, and the one that the Lettuce King had, it was so powerful that it didn't really ever have to work particularly hard, and that thing would get 6.5 miles to the gallon all day long. Didn't matter whether it was in the hills or on the flats. It got really good fuel mileage. Back then, everyone else was getting 3.5 and 4. He was getting 6.5 with that marine cat. Pretty respectable.
SoCal Sandman says, I've been with Forward Air for 9 years now. They treat me just great, and I'm very happy here. I'll drop and hook, terminal to terminal. The only thing that counts against my 14 are fuel stops and catnaps.
I've always heard good things about Forward Air. That's interesting. That's good to know. But yeah, I've heard they were a pretty reputable outfit. A lot of that truly is air freight too. So you're fairly light, and nothing wrong with that unless you're in a big crosswind. But yeah, I've always heard good things about them. Good to know. I appreciate knowing that. Thank you. Maximum overdrive. Those trucks were beautiful. Yes, they were. Here's Michael waiting at Coca-Cola. Good account. Good account anyway. Lots of business, lots of freight. Anyone else listening while waiting at a McLean? At a McLean? Oh, is that must be a grocery chain or something. I'm not sure exactly what that is. If I had a chicken hauler, I'd never be late. Native pride. Oh, I don't know. Those guys got distracted a fair bit too, so they weren't always on time. A lot of times they get there real fast and then waste a couple hours playing pinball or something.
Did anyone celebrate St. Paddy's Day yesterday?
Yeah, good question. Good question. Kathy's got a bit of Irish in her, so St. Patrick's Day is always dear to her heart. You don't.
Oh, the bars, though, were closed.
Yeah, but all the
yesterday.
bars up here were closed. You don't see very many International Lone Stars. Are they not good trucks? I think they were all right. They just didn't really seem to catch on, you know. The styling of them was so extreme that people either loved them or hated them. But we don't see very many of them. So I have to assume that for the most part, guys didn't like them. They kind of had that grill that looked like one of the old Batmobiles, and that was probably a turnoff for some of them. But yeah, and you know, International doesn't have a big dealership network as it is anyway, so you don't see as many Internationals of any model as you see anything else anymore.
There's a good question from Native Pride. How did you purchase your first truck? Good question.
How did I purchase it? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, don't ask me. I didn't ask the question.
I got a loan. I was with a friend. He got a loan. We split the price. Walked into a Kenworth dealer and took one right off the lot. Later on, I ended up buying out his half of the truck. That's the long and the short of it, and never looked back. I'd been a company driver for years before that, so he decided that long haul trucking wasn't for him, and I'd bought him out within a year. Initially, we were going to run team, but that turned out to be a real deal. But it was a good truck. I ran that truck. I kept that truck for 9 years. It was a really good truck. And when the time came to trade it, I traded that Kenworth and bought another Kenworth.
There's a good suggestion from Trevor Fillmore. Anyone with a little experience looking to make some pretty good money through the winter, and I know it's not driving a tractor trailer, but plowing road and highway pays not bad, and that's the truth. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Especially for people right fresh out of school that can't get a job. That's a good way to get experience.
It is a good idea, and you know, that's not bad a job. In fact, I was actually entertaining doing something like that next winter, just because I'd never tried it. But the guys are home every day or every night, depending on what shift they do. So I've actually been kicking that around anyway. I've talked to a few guys, a few friends of mine in town here that do it, and they all like it. So I might give that a shot myself. We'll see. Honda Canada is shutting down for a week starting Monday. Sorry to hear that, but that won't last long. It won't last long.
Diesel Cowboy, run away from the Never Never plan. Yes, that's what we keep saying too. We're not supporters of the Never Never plan.
Yeah, the Never Never plan is just a slang term for lease plan. So yeah,
But it's always been that way. Though.
it's always that's right. It's always been that way. And I've known all sorts of guys that got taken on those Never plan deals. Wayne Hunter, you remember Wayne? He even got taken on one of those Never deals years and years ago, and I haven't liked them since. Yeah, run from the Never plan.
Yeah, you just really don't know what you're getting into.
No.
No matter what.
SoCal Sandman says there are always pilots in airplanes too, and we're back talking about autonomous trucks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they keep the pilots in the airplanes, and they're going to have to keep the drivers in the autonomous trucks, and fine, whatever, as long as the drivers are being well paid. The airline pilots are well paid. As long as the drivers are well paid, they can sit in the bunk all day long. But you know, and I know that the ATA will try to suck the money out of that.
Joselita, I am about to purchase a 379 with a 625 King of the Hill 18-speed 70-inch sleeper. What are your thoughts?
My first thought is, good God, what a big truck that is. A 625, so is that a Cummins? I'm assuming that must be one of the new Cummins is out. 70-inch bunk, sounds like a beautiful truck. What are you going to do with it? It'll be a gorgeous truck. I'd be curious to see.
How are they going to work it?
Yes, how are they going to work it? I'd love to know what they're doing with it. Beautiful truck. Dave, I'm currently stuck in El Paso, Texas, with no backhaul to Mississauga. Well, there's a Petro there, isn't there? I'm pretty sure that was a Petro that I used to land at in El Paso, on the south side of the highway. It's got a big enough parking lot. The food's not bad. Although, God, I heard they were switching the restaurants at Petro's over to Waffle House or some darn thing. IHOP, that was what it was. So hopefully they haven't done that. But anytime I got laid over in El Paso, I headed to the Petro. It was all right. It was all right. At least the weather was nice. You could polish your aluminum. There's worse places to be, believe me.
Maybe you could do the one you talked about the next one.
Yeah. We've got Friday's video coming up. It's kind of a two-part series. Part one, that'll be on this Friday, airing this Friday. The topic is what you will need to know, or what you need to know about how a reefer works. And then the following one, the Friday after that, will be how to load produce. And hauling a reefer or hauling produce is not the easiest thing in the world. It's more complicated than hauling dry freight. There are all sorts of tricks to it. So I'm doing